Even if it's a mistake, it belongs to you. Own it. Those are the words of actress Salma Hayek. And they carry truth not only for life, but also for us that walk in faith. How many times have you been afraid, or I can tell you I've been afraid many times on making mistakes, right? Whether it's been at work, whether it's been with a peer, a coworker, somebody at church, in relationships. It impacts us. So I think it's probably the same for you as you're sitting there and you're walking in life, right? So even in those day-to-day interactions where we make mistakes, there is something there because we have feared how people would see us. Today, I want to remind you that mistakes aren't the end. They are often just the beginning of growth.
Hello, and welcome to the Worthy Believer Show, where we choose to run after our courage and defeat self-limiting barriers with faith, resilience, and biblical truth. Hey, I'm Delma Monica, a Christ follower, wife, mom, and former six-figure corporate leader turned entrepreneur and now podcaster. I firmly believe that following God's guidance leads to authentic freedom and our fullest potential. If you're ready to embrace fear, get comfortable with being uncomfortable, and make being brave a habit, let's do it. Because our God is guiding us every step of the way. Come on, let's dive straight into it.
So welcome to Worthy Believer. I'm your host, Delma Monica. And if this episode encourages you, could I ask a huge favor? Would you please hit that like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who you think would benefit from this message today? Because every now and then, we all just need a friendly reminder and gentle encouragement. Now, the fear of mistakes is kind of where I want to kick off today's podcast, right? So mistakes scare us because they feel like proof of failure. But really, the danger isn't in the mistake that's happened. It's doing nothing. When you look at this from a biblical perspective, I have Proverbs 24:16 that comes to mind. And this is the New King James Version. It says, "For a righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again, but the wicked shall fall by calamity." Now, falling isn't the end. Staying down is. God never called us to a life of perfection. He called us to a life of progress. And I think that's very important that we don't get caught up in the mistakes. We don't get caught up in our imperfections. I think we get focused on, and we should get focused on, the progress. So next, I'd like to also just look at somebody from the biblical aspect, right? So we've got Peter. Peter, he denied Jesus 3 times. That was his greatest mistake. Yet Jesus still told him in John 21, "Feed my sheep." That mistake didn't disqualify Peter. It paired him to lead with humility and grace. So this is something that we could use for us on our day-to-day when we're looking at our mistakes. So your mistake doesn't erase your calling. It could easily sharpen your calling. Next, I'd like to just kind of touch a little bit on how people weaponize mistakes. So we live in a culture where, there's a quick screenshot or there's a slip up, right? And people may laugh or people may judge. But when you say, "Yes, I did it, and I've learned from it," there's power. Their power is gone. In Romans 8:1, it reminds us that there is therefore now no condemnation in those who are in Christ Jesus. So condemnation is canceled. Growth is unlocked at that point. And that's what I want to just encourage you on, is just own the mistakes, right? So mistakes are really, they could be used as tools for growth. And kind of like what Salma Hayek said, your mistakes are your greatest opportunity. That doesn't sound like something that seems pretty common and where people are embracing mistakes, and that's the normal talk. It's something that we should, though, get in the habit of doing, right? And that sounds a lot like James 1, when he's in verses 2-4. It says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." So every mistake can become a classroom if we allow God to teach us through it. It's not the end of the world. It's not like we shouldn't focus on the fact that we're imperfect. Let's focus on, okay, owning it, moving on, right? So when we think from the personal aspect or just reflection or just kind of what can we do about this, I'd like for you to think how you could own a mistake that you've had. Maybe it's at a job, maybe it's with a friendship that's broken, maybe it's something that you mishandled and there was a moment where words slipped out that you wish that you could take back. What if instead you came, instead of shame, you chose ownership? I've had my moments where I've said, man, I really blew it. That's really embarrassing. That has not been my greatest moment. But instead of being stuck in that, I didn't let it define me. I used it as something to where it could refine me. I used it as a moment of growth. And I want to encourage you to do that as well. So take some steps, practical steps that'll own your mistakes, right? The first one that comes to mind is acknowledgement, and acknowledge it quickly. Say, yes, I did that. And that honesty breaks shame. Two, extract the lesson. Ask God, what are you trying to show me through this? The next is move forward boldly. Don't replay it in your head. Don't, exacerbate the thought, the comment, the situation, because that's where thoughts that are not going to be in alignment on the direction that you should be going is really going to hurt you. So instead of the shoulda, the coulda, the woulda, think about different ways that you can grow from this and use biblical affirmations or the word to be able to refine your thinking there. So Philippians 3:13, it says, forgetting those things which are behind and reaching forward to those things which are ahead. Now, I think forward thinking is where it's at. Long term, where we're going to be in the future is where the power is at. And let's not get focused on the negative connotation of things and how life can happen, because we can easily stay stuck there. Where we should be focused is forward thinking. So encourage others when you share your lessons, and when you're being transparent, you give others permission to grow too. It actually encourages them to grow. And this is what it's all about, that we're showing up authentically and fully who we are meant to be. So the next time someone points out your mistake, look them in the eye and say, yes, so what? Tomorrow is another day. Because in God's hands, your mistakes become a seed for transformation. Now remember this, mistakes don't define you. Jesus does. And that's it for today. So thank you for joining me on Worthy Believer. If this message encouraged you, share it with someone who might need it, who is willing to grow, who wants to take it to that next level. Let's keep growth going. Let's live life together. And as always, rise in truth and become limitless.
If you found this podcast helpful, make sure to leave a good review. Thank you.
For a righteous man may fall 7 times and rise again,